they're looking for, online, there's a lot of talk about manifestation. Basically people talk about how, you should write down your goals. They even like to throwing down these numbers like 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 11. Yeah, like when it's when it's 11 past 11, you have to go take out your journal and write down your dream life and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm ignorant and I don't necessarily know if there's any evidence or whatnot for it, but I don't necessarily think that stuff necessarily works. Because I'm more of a guy of, let's just do the stuff that's going to get us to our goal. So let's say,
I do. I'm more than a dreamer.
So, for example, if our goal is to, let's say now, buy a car, graduate, and all those things, I'm more of a guy of, okay, I'm thinking about the goal, let me go study and stuff like that. Compared to maybe someone else might want to first sit down, write it down and journal about it. And yes, I do believe in journaling. Right? I also journal down my goals, stuff like that, but not necessarily in a manifesting way, but just in a way of just emptying my mind and actually writing down on a piece of paper what direction I want to take. So that's more about helping me work towards the goal. Whereas I think some people think that, I guess, manifestation was going to get them the goal in the first place. So I don't know, maybe you could enlighten me and explain to me how you view it. I don't know, is it just daydreaming? What is it?
What is really about? Well, manifestation has got different layers to it, right? There is that layer of manifestation where really it is about you conceiving or thinking out loud or throwing to the universe what is it that you'd like to achieve. And there is a layer, there is a part of manifestation where it really is about taking action and putting in that effort. And my first encounter with manifestation, it was at a very unusual and uncomfortable moment in my life. My encounter with manifestation, it was at a time where I didn't have much. I didn't have any qualification. I didn't have a job. I didn't have my own place to stay. I didn't have anything. I was in my early 20s. And how I encountered manifestation was through a conversation with my mother. And when you are around that age, you are growing to become a man. Sometimes there tends to be that friction, the tension between you and your mom, because you have certain behaviors that sometimes she doesn't approve of. So it was around that time in my life. And this day, my mom, whatever she said, it really built me and it stuck with me through all these years. She told me that whatever it is that you dream of, whatever it is that you aspire to become, it is going to happen. And at first, I couldn't believe it. I thought maybe it was just another motivational talk from my mother, because
trying to make you feel better.
Just trying to make me feel better. How was I going to achieve everything that I had set my eyes on? Because at that time, I didn't have this, I didn't have this, I didn't have that. And then it was unclear of how I was going to move away from that position, moving to a position of someone who is likely, who could possibly achieve all these things. But then thinking back from that moment up until now, I do realize that, okay, fine, although I've not achieved everything exactly as I dreamt or as I had aspired, but there is some achievement, there is a little bit of progress in my life. So that I also do attribute to manifestation. So when we talk about manifestation, there cannot just be one definition to it. But manifestation is basically realizing, materializing anything that you've been thinking or anything that you aspire to become. And as I said, there are quite different layers to it. We're just going to get through it today.
Okay, no, I think that's a great explanation. But then now, for example, for someone like me, I would just call that maybe, how can I put this? Maybe a change in mindset, or recognizing that, yes, what's always in your mind is always going to shape what you do. And what you do is what's going to end up leading to what you get in life instead of what you're always thinking in your own head, Because yes, I do believe that imagination and thinking, those things are very powerful, but I think that without action, those things are very weak and fragile, But I think you can...
I like what you say when you talk about a change in mindset. Because to someone else, manifestation could seem magical. That, I'm just going to dream about this and then it's going to materialize. That's magical. But when you mention the change of mindset, you bring to the discussion how a mindset can actually affect manifestation. So a mindset, B.I.G., Notorious B.I.G., in one of his songs had a quote that stayed with me through the years. He said, a brain is a terrible thing to waste. So it's very terrible for you to waste your brain. So a mindset is extremely important. So with a mindset, the relationship between mindset and manifestation is this. Whatever you place your focus on, or whatever you constantly think about, you are applying a lot of energy to it. What therefore happens is that it grows. Whatever you constantly think about, whatever you constantly imagine, tends to become your reality. But what you hardly imagine, what you never ever conceive, those are things that are going to be hidden from your reality. So it is important that with manifestation, there is a mindset shift from negativity to positivity. I spoke earlier on about my background when I manifested, when at the time when I had nothing, basically. I had nothing at that time, but I couldn't focus on the fact that I don't have a qualification, I don't have a job, I don't have this, I don't have that, therefore I will never achieve. I needed a mindset shift that, fine, I might be at a currently disadvantaged position now, but this is what I aim to achieve. Therefore, each and every morning when I wake up, when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't see someone who doesn't have, but I see someone who potentially could be. I see someone who's working towards achieving something. And that mindset shift of always focusing and concentrating on the positive more than the negative actually amplified the positive things and brought manifestation right to my feet, instead of focusing on the negative. If you focus on the negative, you are amplifying, you are magnifying the negative. But when you focus on the positive, that's when you are amplifying, you are magnifying the positive things in your life. And then soon enough, all these negative experiences, all these these negative effects, they all going to move away. So that is about the mindset shift and manifestation. It is that whatever you focus on, that is where your whole life energy is going to flow into. So if you always focus, chances are nawe uzazithola sowuhlupheka. But if you go focus on ngoba mina ngizalelwe emkhukhwini, and then umamam nobaba bebangenama qualification, bebangenama business, therefore I'm the first person in this family who's actually going to obtain a qualification. I'm the first person in this family who's going to make a business succeed, or is going to build a successful business. And that's manifestation right there. You are putting your life energy into something that is positive, because whatever you keep looking at, it magnifies.
So I guess maybe the main difference is mainly the terms we use, because I don't know, maybe for example, what you're saying about basically visualizing the future and painting things in a better light and shifting your focus from negativity to positivity. Like I said, I see there's a change of mind, but I guess maybe manifestation could also be the word. You get what I mean? And I also like how you mentioned how the things that you focus on is mainly where your energy is going to go. Because I remember a guy on a podcast once saying that where focus goes, energy flows. Because of the fact that if you're someone who's always looking at how everything's an inconvenience and it's difficult, those are the only things that you're going to see.
That's how life is going to be.
You get what I mean? And I think it's the same thing even with people. If you're always looking for the bad in people, that's what you're always going to see. Even the best people in the world, even the nice people, because at the end of the day, everyone's perfect. And everyone else does have imperfections. You get what I mean? And I guess this also aligns with a study that was done, where basically what they did was they took a group of women, and after they make up the scar on their face before they went into some type of interview, and then after the interview, they asked them if whether or not the interviewer made comments about their scar, or whether or not they were discriminated against because of their scar. Almost 90+% of the women said yes. But the catch is that before they went into the interview room, they called them up quickly and be like, "Oh, let's just make some adjustments quickly." Then before they went, they just they wiped the scar without telling them. Then when they went back into the room and they came out, so they went through the whole interview without the scar. But then when they came out, they were like, "No, this guy was talking about the scar," but the scar was not even there in the first place, which shows that your brain just basically paying attention to the stuff that it's focusing on. You get what I mean? And I think the same thing with opportunities too is now. If you're not looking for them, you're never gonna find them. You know, I think I realized this most, especially when it came to like investing. You know, like just buying shares in businesses. You know, online or
you got shares in businesses. I'm saying like I'm manifesting a millionaire right here.
Basically, right. So I'm looking at like all these businesses that like blew up, because you know like how there's some businesses where if you bought their share in like 2010
years ago,
today you literally be worth like millions of rands, right? So then I'm like, if I never had the interest in investing in the first place, I would have never seen this in the first place, because my focus wasn't there. That kind of showed me in a way that if I'm interested in something like this, then I'm also opening my way into finding opportunities that are going to blow up, compared to someone who's not interested in that and they're not focused on that. They're not even going to know they exist in the first place. You know, which shows that just putting your focus into things that are productive and things that are going to get you forward in life are the things that are going to get you further. You know, the same thing with how if you're always looking for red lights and red signs, that's what you're always going to see. But if you look for green lights, that's what you're always going to see. I think that's why also there was this exercise that I did. I was on the bus on the way to campus, where basically I had someone say that if you're in a negative state, count your blessings, and I think a lot of people like saying this quote, but they don't actually do it, but they'll count your blessings. So I was like, okay, let me write 100 things that I'm grateful for. Then I kept listing things. I even got stuck at some point when I was like around 34, 35, but then just seeing that list showed me that there's so many things in my life that I would be grateful for. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like I take them for granted at times just because my eyes are on something else. But in reality, it's like when these things are cut, it's like you don't know what to do anymore. Same thing with electricity right now. It's here today. You know what I'm saying? It's here today. But then the day it's cut, we're like, man, the electricity is gone.
I could have done this, I could have done that, had it not been for electricity.
But it's like, we never really ever sit down and think, damn, like, there's lights on, like, we have power.
What is it that can I do right now?
Exactly. You know what I mean? So, man. So, definitely counting your blessings and, having a good, positive outlook and focusing on the positive more than the negative is definitely a good way to approach life.
Yeah, and then also there is an understanding in some people that manifestation is almost like wishful thinking. You just sit and then think about, this is what I want to become, and then it just simply happens. It really isn't that way. Manifestation, it's not wishful thinking. Manifestation requires action in order for you to manifest, because whatever it is that you're going to manifest, you need to put in effort towards that. So there is another layer of manifestation that needs to be put out there, that it is also important for you. If one day you dream of becoming a successful music producer here in South Africa, it doesn't really matter whether you are at that position or you've achieved that today or not. But what matters today is how many songs or how many beats did you produce today? Because if you really want to become that music producer, and if you really manifesting becoming that music producer, you would at least have one beat or even just half a song beat that you created today. So manifestation is also about taking those daily actions. So then we run away from wishful thinking. We have to put it out there that manifestation is not wishful thinking. It is also about taking daily action.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also people underestimate the fact that a lot of things that we see today, the big empires, the rich people, the happy family, the great relationships people have, those were built throughout days. They didn't just happen overnight. And it was just small incremental change. Even just getting in shape every day, just one session at a time. Maybe when you go to this gym session today, you're not going to see a big change. But after 30 or 100 of those sessions, you're going to see a drastic change. I was even talking to my friend about this too, where we started discussing how I in a way said that I can tell whether or not someone's going to basically be successful based on how they treat the little actions. So for example, maybe someone, let's say, spends like 30 rand every single day on like Court or Black Label or some type of alcoholic beverage. They're like, what, maybe just cut it for today, and then just try and go a few days without it. Then watch how your money accumulates. But they're like, nah, man, 30 rand can't buy a car, 30 rand can't do this. But in reality, when you look at, like, for example, 30 rand saved every day over the course of a month ends up being 900 rand at the end of the month. Now you have 900 rand to spend next month. You get what I mean?
And with that 900 rand, you can invest it in some income streaming source. You can, invest it in
a certification. These certification exams, they're not even expensive nowadays. Like, they're maybe like around 900 to, let's say, 3,000 rand, depending on the rank of the course. You get what I'm saying? But it's like just a small change like that can actually accumulate to something big. Because at the end of the day, that's the power of, just linear growth. And already we talk about compounding growth already. Adding, let's say, for example, putting money in an investment, then it's now compounding every year by 50% or something like that. But just that small change that people can get, everything, that even if it's just saving like maybe 100 rand a day, 100 rand a day at the end of the month is like 1,000. You get what I'm saying? Just from just making a small amount of change and just saving and not thinking in terms of, oh no, 100 rand can't buy me a house or it can't buy me a car. Because that million rand is made up of a bunch of little 100 rands that were saved.
Yeah, it's made up of 1,000 rand that were saved, compounded over years. So what you're mentioning now about, starting small and then doing something repetitively so then you achieve a certain goal, it takes us back to the relationship between manifestation and goal setting. It's also important that part of your manifestation, or when you want to manifest something, you also engage in setting up goals. As I mentioned earlier on, you could be in a position where you want to be a music producer, want to be an athlete, you want to do anything. But it is also important for you to set certain goals. And one thing about goals is that those are things that you can measure after a specific time. To say, okay, fine, I've always wanted to become this, but what have I done after 3 months' time? If I want to become a music producer, how many beats do I have after 3 months? If I want to become an entrepreneur, what kind of business opportunities have I engaged with over these past 3 months or over the next 3 months? So that is another important thing, as you are mentioning right now, that if anything is compounded in life. You cannot say, what am I going to get if I only save 30 rand? It's not going to buy me a car. But saving the 30 rand in a month's time, you're going to have 900. And if you have 900 after 3 months, how much that is? 1918, that is 2,700 that you have. So it just shows how everything is actually compounded towards achieving specific goals. So it brings us to that relationship between manifestation and goals. And talking about myself, I do struggle a lot with setting up goals at the beginning of the year or at any point in time in my life and actually keeping track of that. But what I have learned is that although maybe I didn't set explicit goals that, okay, 1, 2, 3, this goal number 1, this goal number 2, this goal number 3. But what I've also learned is that I'm able to track certain success over a specific period of time. Ever since we started doing this podcast, I've also been looking at the engagement that we have online, the viewers that we have and the subscribers that we have. It's hardly 6 months and we have, a certain number of subscribers. And for that, I'm grateful.
And definitely better than where we were when we began.
We are better than where we were when we began. So it really, that shows setting goals and the relationship between goal setting and manifestation.
No, definitely. So Delukufa, how about you also break down why maybe manifestation works for some people but may not work for others? What do you think maybe the people who it doesn't work for are doing wrong?
Oh yes, when it comes to that, I also question myself when I look at the world around me. I could be driving around in the city or could just be taking a walk around the city, and then I see the number of homeless people. I see young men, young women, old women who are homeless, who are just roaming the streets. And I always get emotional. I get emotional to a point where sometimes I drop a tear whenever I encounter such people, because I ask myself, why didn't the universe make a plan for them just like it did for me? So I've also learned to not to make comparisons between myself and people because situations differ. But the reason why others manifest while others don't, it can be attributed to different factors. Examine our habits, for instance. We can all hang out Friday night, Saturday night at the same bar, drinking the same alcohol, thinking we are wasting our lives. But on Monday when we wake up, on top of my journal, I am drafting my goals. On Tuesday I am busy doing something different that is aligned with my purpose. So it is because of the different habits that people have. What you do in your own life, you might think as it is just something mundane. I have to go to school anyway, I have to go and work anyway, I have to write this scripture, I have to I have to write these lyrics and what. You might think it's small, but then some people, they do not lift a finger to even do what you are doing. So it boils down to the different habits that we as a people have, because you might be having certain habits that are conducive to your own growth. You might be having certain habits that are going to make your manifestation easy, but others might be having quite different habits. It's not only habits also goes with preparation. You mentioned earlier on that nothing worthwhile is achieved overnight. You cannot succeed in business overnight. You cannot succeed in entrepreneurship, in whatever aspiration you had set for yourself. You cannot succeed there overnight. Going to school teaches us that. You have to, stick to a specific period of time enrolled for a qualification, and then after those 4 years you become an IT specialist, and then after becoming an IT specialist, after it's a certain amount of years with experience and qualifications, you become an IT executive or director or anything like that. So that is where it teaches us that preparation is also important. Preparation. Many times, and especially nowadays, people are always looking for a quick way out. We are looking for quick rich schemes. Everybody is a forex trader now, and every second person is a DJ, and every third person that you know has a podcast. Why? Because we all have these imaginations that these things are going to make us rich quicker, or these things are going to bring us quick wealth, while in reality it really boils down to preparation. It all boils down to preparation. You might be preparing yourself for whatever goal you have in mind, or for whatever dream you have in mind, and you might take quite some time in preparation, and then the moment you succeed, other people might see that as luck, but they're not going to see the preparation for all those years that is behind what you have achieved. And, by the time you also achieve, you realize that even all those people that you idolized, you have surpassed them in your craft. Why is that so? Because it is through preparation. You might take it for granted, waking up in the morning and going to school. There are others who don't even do that. So their daily habits are questionable. Their preparation is also lacks. And then another thing, it is confidence. You remember with manifestation, I had nothing when my mother told me that one day I'm going to have everything that I dream about. And I did believe that. And I did have confidence in myself that, you know what? Yeah, I might be a laughing stock in the neighborhood for now, but one day, all these troubles would be a thing of yesterday. So we need to have that certain level of confidence. And then what builds confidence in a person? It's not arrogance to say, yeah, I deserve this, or you are entitled. Yeah, I'm entitled to a good life. I'm supposed to live a good life. No, it's not what builds confidence. Confidence needs to be separated from arrogance and entitlement. When you are confident about something, it is when you feel that way because of how you apply yourself. So if you apply yourself to your studies, if you apply yourself to whatever craft you want to achieve, then you have a right to be confident. Why? Because each and every day there are small actions that you are taking that are going to compound, or that are actually going to help you manifest what you're dreaming of. So confidence is another thing. And remember, with confidence actually goes hand in hand with applying yourself. You cannot be confident if you're not applying yourself. That is entitlement, that is arrogance. And then with confidence, networking and perseverance as well. Perseverance. And a lot of people don't persevere. We try something out once or twice and then it doesn't work out and then we leave it. I know this from my own life experiences. there's quite a number of businesses or ideas that I've had before and that didn't work out. And when they didn't work out, although it seemed as if I had given up on them, I actually didn't. I just had to take another route. I had to take another course in achieving whatever it is that I wanted to achieve. So perseverance is also important. And with perseverance, it also speaks to at the moment you are starting something, at the moment you are beginning anything. You're not going to start your business this year and then this year already you've made money to buy a Rolls Royce. No, it is not going to happen that way. You're not going to start your business this year and then this year already you are starting to realize profits in your business and everything. No, it doesn't happen like that. Anything that is worthwhile, it takes time to build. So you need to give yourself the time to build. So forget about get rich quick scams, forget about shortcuts in life, and forget about life is too short, so therefore this thing needs to work now. Forget all about that. Life is very long, and give yourself enough time to manifest. Give yourself enough time, to persevere, to be consistent in whatever you're doing, to keep preparing, because that day will come where you have to be a president, where you have to be a chairperson of a company. How you are preparing now or anything that you're consuming now is going to determine what kind of a leader you're going to become one day.
Definitely. And also, back to how a lot of people are rushing a lot of their goals. One thing that you also notice amongst the very successful people that we look up to, almost all of them, if not all of them, they always tell us that whatever they did took time. You get what I mean? Like all these people who are successful today that we look up to, like this is just years of preparation and dedication and hard work being displayed to us today. So for example, even the same way how ChatGPT just came out of the scene back in December 2022, a lot of people may think that, AI has just been an overnight success, when in reality artificial intelligence really started being developed back in even the 1950s. So we're just now seeing the result of work that's been done since the 1950s.
Centuries.
You get what I mean? And even, for example, the people even running these companies, they've been working on this stuff for years. OpenAI, the company that runs ChatGPT, was literally founded, I believe, back in 2012, in 2013. But a lot of people don't know that. They'll just assume, this is just a company that popped out in 2020 during COVID.
People are also seeing ChatGPT in recent years. Yeah.
You get what I mean? And that's how things work. And even one thing that I've also noticed is whenever you try and rush something, well, let's say, for example, it's getting in shape, you'll maybe overwork yourself. Or when you're trying to lose weight, you'll starve
Don't
yourself.
even give muscles enough time to relax and then actually expand. Yeah.
Exactly. Or for example, you want to lose weight and then you just start starving yourself. Or maybe you want to get rich, so you start doing something like gambling, or forex, or all these quote-unquote get rich quick schemes. But you realize that you do more damage to yourself because now, even with these get rich quick schemes, you end up having less money than you initially did. Because you put in your 5,000 right to 50,000. Now you have zero. So now you're even worse than how you started off. Or you're trying to lose weight and stuff like that. Maybe you'll try and starve yourself, but then you just end up getting sick. And then now you either lose weight dramatically or you just end up gaining back the weight because now you just want to start binge eating again because you can starve yourself. When in reality, slow and steady is the way. And in reality, we just need to accept that there's no shortcut. There really is no shortcut. You just have to put in the work,
put in the time,
put in the consistency, and realize that everyone you're seeing today is not the result of just a few weeks or months of hard work or a few days, even some people. This is just the years of dedication. And you see this all the time amongst everyone. If you ask Patrice Motsembe, how quick did it take you to get rich? She's not gonna say, I just did a 1 week course. I just bought someone's Telegram and I got rich. They're not gonna say that. They're gonna tell you that, hey man, I lost a lot of money during the way, but then I had to learn, I had to adapt, I had to be consistent. There were days where I didn't want to show up and I still did. There were days where my company was really bankrupt, but I still went through.
I still made it through.
Exactly. Same thing with people who are, on weight loss journeys, As I think also, as much as people like making fun of them, even the people on 600-pound life, they can also be very inspiring. Because imagine having to go from 600 pounds back to normal weight. That takes a lot of willpower, especially if you're someone who ended up in that situation. But you see them to where their journey will be how they'll be starting off at the beginning, will be very difficult. They'll gain some consistency, and since they're human, they'll sometimes fall back into their eating habits and gain weight back, but then they'll try again, and it's this thing of on and off, but then eventually they get their breakthrough, then they just start losing weight, going to the gym consistently, eating healthy, getting the surgery done. And after, even sometimes as people, I think that we also need to accept the fact that we're not robots. You know, we're not going to be 100% consistent.
Yeah.
We're not going to wake up every day with that feeling of
feeling
I
like I want to do this, feeling motivated, feeling inspired.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So even on some days, man, let's say you maybe miss a day or two, maybe sometimes even a week. You know, it happens. You know what I mean?
Does happen,
but you just need to make sure that you don't give up and you come back. You know, forgive yourself what you did and just get back to it again.
And I like the words when you talk about not giving up and forgiving yourself for whatever you might have experienced, because it is also important with manifestation. We also listen to the words that we tell ourselves. You know, self-talk is extremely important. When we open it, you are speaking about those positive self-affirmation statements, you know, that what people can say in front of a mirror. So it brings us to another point of whatever words you speak to yourself, they actually build a life that you live. So it's also very important to look at the words that you speak to yourself. So if you always speaking negative words to yourself, no, who am I to achieve this? No, I don't even connections to achieve that. No, I don't. That is when you are limiting your manifestation. You're not going to manifest. Why? Because the words that you are speaking, they becoming the life that you build. You also need to be very, very careful of that. So if you're thinking to yourself, I'm not going to achieve this business, or I'm not going to achieve that because I do not have connections, that is exactly what's going to happen. Why? You are manifesting the words that you are speaking. So manifestation is not something that we're going to see in the long run. It is something that we also see in the present moment. So whatever words you say to yourself, that is manifestation. So be careful of the self-talk, because the words that you speak, they are actually building you a life. So that is another thing that is very, very important when it comes to manifestation, because many a times a lot of people limit themselves with the words that they say. Like, I was also like that, you know the dreamer that I am. So I'll be like, okay, fine, maybe, you know what, when I finally make my things happen, when I finally get my money right, I'm gonna get my car around my 2 million, 3 million and whatnot. And then these days I've been having a different premonition. I woke up one day and I felt like, damn man, if I'm supposed to implement all these ideas and set up all these, ideas, these businesses that I have in mind, damn, I can even achieve a car worth 13 million, so that is where I've actually taken that limitation lid off. So we also need to be careful of the words that we speak, because they actually build a life.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think also what you say is also a reflection of what's already in your mind. You get what I mean? And I think that if you have a toxic mind and, toxic self-belief and toxic, I guess, self-talk, you also end up believing it. And when you believe that stuff, you don't even bother to even do anything anymore.
Because you already believe
exactly.
it.
And I think one of the biggest excuses as people, man, is sometimes we like coming up with that term of, but it's just the way I am. I feel like that's something that we really like hiding behind, because the fact that we don't want to put in the work to change. I'm just a lazy person.
And I like what you're saying about change, because life really is about being flexible.
Exactly.
You need to be able to adapt in life. So it is true what you're saying. A lot of us people, we are, as Christians would normally say it, weapons of mass destruction, forget myself. But as people, we are the weapons of mass destructions that is formed against our very own selves. We are that through the words that we speak.
Definitely. And I think also, I was talking to this with my friend, and we were basically discussing how a lot of life is just more about what you don't do than what you actually do. So I remember this guy on the podcast, so he was explaining how we don't multiply by zero, So what he meant was, let's say, for example, you want to get in shape, so you start going to the gym, you start eating healthy, you start sleeping right. But then multiplying by zero would then now be us, let's say, developing an alcoholic addiction or a drug addiction. Because now that's just cancelling out what we did. The same way how, for example, 2 million times zero is still zero. The same way how, for example, you could work hard, go to the gym, go to sleep on time, eat healthy. But then now if you have this crippling drug addiction, that's just going to cancel out everything that you did. You're not going to see the results. So you're essentially just going to be multiplying by zero. So I think also wisdom is more about knowing what not to do than what knowing to do. Because I think that sometimes even just maybe not doing the wrong thing still puts you in a good enough position to be able to maybe later doing the right thing. you know. Yeah. So I think it's the same thing as how, you know, they say, I believe idle hands are the devil's playground or something like that. You know, like not being busy with something.
The idle mind is the devil's playground.
Exactly, you know, because for example, you're not busy with anything, then that's when you're more likely to fall into bad habits.
To end up in destruction. If you're not creating anything and then you're destructing
yourself. Destroying, exactly.
Yeah, that is so true. Because think about it this way. So also yourself, if you didn't have all these activities that you're doing, I will tell you about myself, how my life has changed, you know, over the course of years, and how my weekends have changed. I used to, almost like from a Friday to Saturday, Sunday, I would dread being in my own space. I wanted to be out there, you know, with friends and doing, you know, whatever people that usually do on weekends. In my 20s, you know, it really was about drinking every weekend, and the heavy drinking every weekend. That is what it was about. So now that I'm grown, now that I'm more matured, there are certain activities that keep me busy on weekends. You know, I know Sundays are reserved for church, and I know Saturdays I usually have to catch up on a bit of work here and there, or, you know, go to certain places where I'm unable to go during the week. And then on my Friday, it really is about resting, because life keeps me busy with work throughout the week. So Friday is for resting, Saturday it's catching up with work here and there, you know, seeing families, my own personal responsibilities, and then Sunday it is where, you know, I attend to my spiritual life. So that routine, it has given my life a certain form and a certain structure, that I don't fall into certain challenges, or I don't fall into distractions. So it's very much important, as you're saying, that people, in order to manifest, we also need to create a certain structure around our lives. We need to create a certain routine to know, this is what I'm going to do at this time for this purpose. Because an idle mind, idling hands are actually a devil's workshop. When you start idling around, and then that is when you end up distracting yourself more than you probably could have had you had something keeping you busy and something going on with your life.
Definitely. So yeah, man, but to wrap up, man, I actually, now you have convinced me that manifestation is not just delusion. You know, because I used to just think that's what it used to be. You know, because I used to just think, like, well, I mean, what's the point of just writing down your goals, but then not doing anything about it, or just lying in bed and then repeating to yourself over and over that, yes, I'm strong, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be X, I'm going to be Y, but you're never doing anything. But I didn't realize that, okay, maybe it works hand in hand as well with action, you know, and I guess maybe manifestation can be defined more as basically taking the positive thoughts you have in your mind and putting them in reality. You know, so yeah. Man.
And having those positive thoughts, and keep reminding yourself those positive thoughts. Because sometimes you can also put it in reality, but when the reality opposes what you're trying to do, it's also important to look at what you're going to tell yourself.
Exactly.
As well. Yeah, remember about that self-talk, those positive affirmations. So that is something that is also important about manifestation.
Definitely. And I think especially during the tough times, you know, especially during those days where you don't want to do anything, or on the days where you're losing faith in whatever you want to do, I think that's really the time when you really have to like dive into, you know, deep manifestation. You know, like remembering your goals, remembering how you were feeling when you were visualizing that life that you want. You get what I'm saying? And remembering that this is just a setback. You know, and I think also one thing that this other billionaire once said is that once they started viewing their failures as data more than like this meaning anything more than it is, exactly, that's when they started achieving more, because now everything didn't feel so catastrophic. So for example, now when sales drop by 25% in this business, he doesn't think, what are we gonna do? This means that now we're gonna go bankrupt. Whatever. No, he just sees that, okay, sales are dropping, what can we do to be better? This is just data, so now let's do what we can with the data and try and improve things. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just viewing everything as, our business is losing money, this is not meant to be. But instead of viewing things like that, it's like, no, what can we do to change things and improve things?
Oh yeah, that is so true. So thank you. If you enjoyed our episode, like, subscribe, so then other people are also going to see it. Before we do that, can you also please drop us your comments? What do you think about manifestation, or what are your strategies in order to manifest the life that you aspire, in the comment sections?
Cheers,
Check it out.